release you. I release you from my emotions. I release you from my heart. I release you from my mind. I release you from my body. I release you from my spirit. Listen, this is the Marie, host of About This Life. These few words are liberating in terms of they are like a sacred ritual, if you would, of release, of letting go. Today, we are talking about letting go after divorce. Painful, yet it is not the end of the world. And so, Jeff, welcome to my show. And I wanted to ask you because you are Jeff K, and I wasn't sure if I was going to pronounce your name right. Jeff, is it Kolez?
It is, yes. You got it.
Jeff
Thanks for having
Kolez.
me.
Absolutely. Welcome to the show, Jeff. I am excited to have you here. And quite honestly, because you and I were chatting beforehand, and I was saying how much as women we talk, we share, we let loose. We let loose. I've always wanted a male perspective. I've always wanted a male voice. So I'm looking forward to this conversation. I want to say, yes, you are a father, Jeff. 16 and 18, been there, done that, got the t-shirt.
I did.
My goodness, that's an interesting age. So that's special. Let me tell you, as all of us know. But what's wonderful is what comes after. How much in terms of the relationship change, you know? In terms of the fathers of two boys, you were in the tech industry for a while, and even now you are a divorce coach. And I think a lot of people are going to be happy to hear that. Let's begin with your boys. Let's begin because our children are often the heart and soul of who we are. What are they into? What are they into, Jeff?
What are they into? So I got these wise words from a friend of mine when I first had my oldest, and
Hmm.
I'm going to share it here. And this served me so well, and maybe it'll. I'm going to share these words that a friend of mine shared when my oldest was born. He said, "Throw your kids into everything.
Mm.
And then whatever they're really interested in, really push them in that. Um, put them in. I forget the words he used, but what that really served me. My boys did. My oldest is a really competitive kid, so I put him into sports, hockey because I'm Canadian, and he went pretty far. And it was, I think, that act of um, believing in him and having his back that really built a good level of trust between us. My youngest is different. He's into everything. So he's done
Okay.
karate, hockey, boxing, improv, art, cooking. Like he's into all sorts of
Tried it
things.
all. He's not
Tried it all.
Aquarius, is he? Sounds like me.
Aquarius.
February.
No, he's December.
Okay.
Um, so my oldest is now in school in university for nuclear engineering. I don't know where that came from, but I think that's awesome.
Wow.
He's a smart, well, they're both smart boys. But we have a really good relationship because when you go through a divorce, it's challenging, yes. You can either dwell on what went wrong or you try to find what the benefits of it are. So that's what I tried to do with the boys is build this intimacy when they're with me, where we're building something bigger than what they normally would be. So again, I'm going to use sports because it's such an easy analogy, but giving him a push to try harder and to move up in levels. So he started in house league and then got into competitive hockey. And that just kept him focused on this goal. And every year at the beginning of the year, I would set out a goal for them. What do you want to do? Well, I want to save enough money for a new phone. Okay. Whatever it was, you support them in that and you give them a little push. It doesn't mean I didn't be in, my goal was not to become one of those crazy hockey parents, but to give him a push when he got off track. And then one year he said, I don't want to do hockey anymore. No problem. But that's what I think really developed that relationship. And we have such a good relationship at this point. And it's one of the things I'm most proud of is how they turned out. They're very kind, conscientious, um, yet still very masculine boys.
Absolutely. How old were they when you divorced from their mom?
6 and 4,
6 and 4, so very young.
very young.
Yes, very young. And that's, that's a painful, uh, just a pain point, to have. Jeff, how did you know it wasn't going to work out?
Um, there's two answers to that. That's what I was
Okay.
debating in my head, which one to give. So let me give the first one. The first one was she used to say, we're not rich. Stop trying to live like we are. And that was just such this it felt like somebody's pulling you back all the time, like holding you. Stop acting that way. Stop acting like we're rich. How do you have ambition if you're not, striving for something bigger? And it just felt like this. I didn't realize it, but it felt like this mismatch between I wanted to live this big life, and she was happy staying in she's been in the same house for 18 years now. Whereas I've lived in many, many different cities and countries and houses. Um, so that was one level. And then it just manifested into, us just kind of going our own ways.
Okay. And, I understand that because, first of all, in terms of full disclosure, I'm divorced myself. And there's an energy that comes when two people meet one another.
Hmm.
And then you realize that as you grow, as you evolve, because thank God we don't stay the same. There's beauty in growing, in changing, is that you grow in different directions. And it becomes, okay, if you're growing this way and I'm growing this way, how do we handle that new relationship, that new entity? And so we go through a lot. I wonder, did you go through the counseling thing? Because one of the questions people are always asking me, did you go see a counselor? Did you go to your church? It's like, yes, I tried everything.
Um,
I tried it all.
that- that's very wise of you to recognize that, you change. Um, I don't think I knew that. I think I was very immature back then. There's old Jeff and new Jeff, and old Jeff was fairly
Well, there's
immature.
young Jeff, because there
Yeah,
was
yeah.
young Anne Marie, and what do you know when you're young?
Um,
Okay, so there's old Jeff and new Jeff.
old Jeff and new Jeff. I'm repartnered now. She's in the next room. And we've been together now longer than I was with my ex. And what the difference is, well, me, and it's a decision to um, work things out together, and it is a decision.
Yes.
Somebody said, I think I saw a Matthew McConaughey clip the other day where he says, "Sometimes you're ahead, sometimes she's ahead," and it's that decision that you're a team, and that you're going to pull her up when she's behind, and she's going to pull you up when you're behind, and you each have your strengths, and you work to them.
You know, I love Matthew McConaughey and his book Green Lights. It's pretty amazing. I highly recommend that. So, um, you've got two kids, you have two sons, you realize that the relationship wasn't working, you went the way of divorce. What did you learn about yourself? You mentioned this old version of you and this new version of yourself. What have you learned about who you are?
I think of divorce as an opportunity to wake up and really see who you are. I still don't know I've defined who I am. I was just writing earlier today about identity. Um, and when you go through a divorce, the reason it's painful is because you're holding on to those old identities.
Mm,
Um, that
mm,
so and for me, that was um, and being a husband, being a father, those are such big roles. And when you go through the court system, as I did,
mm-hmm,
um, some of those roles get taken away from you forcibly, and you're lost. You're left wondering what the hell happened. First of all,
mm-hmm,
you come out of court. You're walking down the court steps, and you're like, I don't even know what happened. I feel very disoriented.
mm-hmm,
Um, so the old Jeff, the reason I have this demarcation between old Jeff and new Jeff is old Jeff was very much in his head. He was very logical. I was in tech before this, so I was a programmer, and programming is very black and white. It's this or that. It's an if statement. If this, then that. Otherwise this.
mm-hmm.
So um, that's how I live my life. I live my life from logic. But a marriage is not logic.
No, it's not.
It's the land of the emotions. Some days, and like I alluded to earlier, some days you're up, some days you're down, and you have to learn to account for that. So when I was old Jeff, he would push emotions down and didn't know how to handle them. And that does not work out well. You
Mm-hmm.
push them down, eventually they're going to blow up. And um, you're not living a very authentic life from that place. You're running away from what feels bad to what feels good. That's not authentic.
Okay. I have a question for you. I have several questions for you. And I want to go on the path where we are now, but it's almost like I want to go through this rabbit trail because you mentioned the word identity. And
Mm.
when you're young and you're going into a marriage, did you have a sense of your identity of who you were? How like I was what 21, 22 when I got married. So did you have a sense of, who you are and what you represent, what your belief systems are?
You were but a baby. Um,
Yes. Yes, Jeff.
no, I didn't. Um,
Uh-huh.
and I
And
was 30.
I'll take that. I was a baby.
I was 30 and I was still a baby. I didn't know
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what a marriage was. Nobody explained to me what it was.
Mm-hmm.
I remember after we got married, it was like, all right, I have a wife now. I guess the next step is let's have a kid. It felt like life was on this track, like this, and then you buy a house, and then you know this and that. Um, I no, I didn't have an identity at all, and I don't think I took one on until after. You know what? That's not true. I'm sorry. I'm going to back that up.
Hmm.
Um, I was told at a, I don't mean this to sound egoic, but I was told at a young age that I was a smart kid. And so I think I took on that identity of being smart. The problem with taking that identity on is that you try to think your way out of all sorts of problems. So when my marriage happened and anytime there was difficulty, I would be in my head and trying to think my way out of the problem. Doesn't work. Um, so that going through a divorce breaks down that identity because you try to think your way out of it and that doesn't work. It just gets worse and worse and worse. I remember I would argue in my head on the way to dropping the kids off to school, and I would spend the whole time arguing in my head about um, to my ex about how to solve the problem, and that doesn't solve it. It takes a lot of trust to let that identity go. I may have been smart logically, but I wasn't smart emotionally. I was quite stupid emotionally. So that identity of being smart was a false one.
And I wanted to land on that because, first of all, I think you're pretty smart because you figured it out. That in terms of trust, I wanted to land on that because sometimes we go into relationships without really knowing who we are. And life is a gamble. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. Because, I'm sure you've heard stories of people married 40, 50, 60 years, and you wonder how they did it, in terms of their roles. You've come to understand your needs and your wants because, you said that you've re-partnered now. So, how, in terms of encouragement, people who do want to partner with someone, who do want to spend time with someone, and share a life with, how did you work out the boundaries between both of you? Was it a conversation or did it evolve on its own and just spending time together? What does it look like?
I think it evolved. I don't want to, it wasn't always easy. I know I brought along some of the patterns I had when I was in my first marriage to this one. And um, it took a lot of work and being humble to get to a place where I could admit those patterns. And when we got together, I don't even, maybe I still didn't even know who I was at that point or what those boundaries were.
Mhm.
So it took a lot of, I think, trial and error. Um,
Okay. Okay.
we had we had the benefit of a coach. So we were able to go to the coach and um, say, "This is my view. This is her view, and where's the truth? What are we looking for here? What do we do here?" Um, and she would help us work through the emotions that came up with it. You're just not aware of the emotional um, tapestry that's there.
Okay, so Jeff, you hit on a couple of things. First of all, you went where I wanted to go because I wanted to talk about how did you heal?
Mhm.
And you just mentioned seeing a coach, but also as women, because we are so emotional, we have this myth in our head that men are not emotional. that men don't have feelings, and I'm I'm owning it for the women because ladies, we do. It's a lie. It's a lie. And tell us, because right now, and you are yourself are a coach right now. So tell us about you have evolved into a coach. So tell us why it's a lie to say that men don't have emotions. My God.
Of
Of
course we do. Of course we do. We just
course
push
you do.
them
You're
down.
human.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, emotions are the language of being human. So, um, it's interesting. My coach that I was just describing, I've had a few of them, but the one I'm talking about that we that helped us work through our emotions. Um, she uh-oh, where was I going with this? She has a technique where you learn to examine emotions as they come up. You become aware of them and examine them. And what you do is you look for um, there's gold inside of an emotion. If you're having an emotion, so many men run away from it because we're scared of feeling what that emotion is. But there is this gold inside of it, and it will show you where what you're running away from. And if you can learn to balance that, um, there's a lot of power in that. So it's interesting because I told you at the beginning that I was very logical and I was a programmer. And um, what my coach taught me was you can almost logic emotions. And I know that sounds like an oxymoron, and it sounds like I'm
Mhm.
applying logic. I'm just escaping from the emotions, but it's not. If you learn to um, feel the emotion and then look inside of it. And I'm
Mm.
not doing a great job of explaining this
You're
here.
doing a great job because I'm following along with you because I'm understanding that if you feel anger
Yeah.
or if you feel frustration or if you feel betrayal,
Hmm.
that instead of pushing it down, instead of going ahead and eating or drinking or whatever it is we do to cope, if we dealt with it and figured out why in the world, what has it triggered inside of us and why. Am I paraphrasing correctly?
You are. But what I want to really underscore here, and it might resonate with any male listeners, is
Mm-hmm.
that you can almost logic emotions. That's really important here because let me give you an example. My ex had an affair. That was the end of the relationship. Um, and leading up to the end of the relationship, she was on her phone all the time, of course. So when I started dating my new partner, she would be on her phone, and I would start to get angry. And then going to the coach, she helped me realize that I was angry because I was remembering my ex and being on her phone all the time and betraying me. You
Yes.
said betrayal, so that's what I'm
Yes. Yes.
recounting here.
Yes.
So now I could have allowed that emotion to continue, and that was a pattern, right? Like you start to look for those patterns subconsciously. Um, and I could have allowed that pattern to continue, and that would have happened with the next girl and the next girl and the next girl. But instead of running away from that emotion, you face it and you go, what's really going on here? What's the truth underneath this? She's just on her phone. She wasn't betraying any, like she wasn't doing anything wrong. She was just on her phone. Very innocent. But I was the one who was assigning an action to it.
Yes. So in terms of the perceptions, and that's so important because oftentimes after a divorce, just by the example that you use, we can sabotage
Hmm.
a new relationship because we attribute what we've been through to the new person. And that can lead to sabotage in the very example that you just used. I want to, first of all, I've got slow traveler. You explained it to me, but come on, let's talk about slow traveler because you've been living some dreams, Jeff. So talk to me about slow traveler.
Um, about 2 years ago, we had a really nice house, and we decided to sell it for various reasons, but it was time for a change in life. And we've been talking about it for years, and we said, let's go to Mexico and see how that goes. And so we spent about a year in Playa del Carmen. We just wanted to live, you know, simply, lightly. We have like I think three suitcases, and well, we have two dogs, but three suitcases and two dogs. Um, I always wanted to live in a beach town, so we did that. I went diving a bunch. We would go to the beach in the morning, and that was our life for a year. Now, um, that was my pick. Now she picked the west coast of Mexico because there's mountains and there's ocean. And we're just gonna slowly. I don't know what the next destination is, but for now we're here.
You're discovering life on your own terms. It sounds a lot also like you're fulfilling dreams, travel and be in a different location. Uh, that's a dream in terms of, not, it's outside the regular 9 to 5, we would say, you know. So, in terms of being able to follow those dreams and being able to find quote unquote love again, and we think about, I want to say love not just as a noun, but love as a verb,
Mhm.
because that one word is so loaded. But from your perception, divorce is like a service or an area of spiritual growth.
Yeah.
How did connect it for us? How is divorce an area for spiritual growth?
Love is very important when you say that, and I'm using it in the nouns, no, in the noun sense.
Mhm.
Um, you have a choice. When you go through something traumatic like a divorce, you have a choice. And the choice is either you run away from it or you learn to love it. Love it means you see how it can serve you. You see an equal number amount of challenge and support. So loving is seeing an equal amount of challenge and support. You can see it as more challenge than support, more negatives than positives, but that means you're going to resent it. And that means you're going to have a judgment and you're going to run away from it. You run away from good to, or from bad to good. You can also be infatuated with something, meaning you see more positives than negatives, and you tend to run towards those sort of things. But then
Mhm.
but it always balances. If you learn to love your divorce, you see what it's bringing you. So in my case, it brought attention to learning to master my emotions,
Mhm.
learning to connect with my heart, like go inside and become a who I was meant to be. I would not be slow traveling with a wonderful woman. Um,
Yes, yes, that makes you smile.
it does. She does. She does. Living this adventurous life. She calls them my harebrained schemes.
Yes.
Where I have this half-baked idea and we go, you want to go do this? And one of us says, sure. I would not be doing this if
Hmm.
I was still with my ex, if I didn't go through that divorce and get almost this baptism of fire. So if you can take one thing from this is learn to love your divorce. What is it bringing you? What did it give you? How are you different because of it?
Absolutely. And you coach. So, do you coach men, women, couples? Who do you coach? How does that work?
So I coach men who have been through a divorce or going through it. And the idea is that divorce is almost like a Trojan horse. There's a gift inside of it, and I help men to discover
Mm.
what that gift is.
Mm. And unpack that. I know the English literature and the Odyssey and all of that and Trojan horse, but go ahead and
Trojan,
unpack that
sure, sure.
for those people who don't know what that term means.
A Trojan horse was, and this is more of a reverse Trojan horse. So
Yeah,
I'll explain what it means,
that's
but
okay. And was it
um,
Greek or Roman? I forget which one.
it's Greek, right? Yeah.
I think it's Greek
Um,
mythology.
oh no, I'm forgetting my mythology. Just
Exactly.
stay
That's
with me on
okay.
this.
That's okay.
There was two cities that were fighting, and one city pretended to surrender, and so they gave the other city this wooden horse.
Hmm.
And the city who was gifted the wooden horse brought it inside the walls. But what they didn't know was that inside there was a whole bunch of men.
Hmm.
So at night, those men crept out of the horse and took over the city. Now that's the reverse Trojan horse is you're given something negative, like a
Hmm.
divorce,
Yes, like a divorce.
but there's a nugget inside of it. There's a gold nugget inside of it. All you have to do is crack that thing open. All you have to do. I'm making it sound easier than it is. It's a journey. Once you crack it open, there is a gift inside, and it's specific to you. I can't say what the gift is for you until we work through it together. But what I'm doing is helping men to discover what that gift is.
Hmm.
And it's something. I'm telling you it's something. So divorce is it's not a legal problem, it's a spiritual problem. It's getting you to look inside and level up. So the way I would start is start asking yourself, what is this divorce showing me? What am I learning?
Mm.
What what area of life do I need to work on? For me, I was too logical. I was too much in my head. I needed to get outside of that. I didn't understand people. I was emotionally weak. I was
Hmm.
emotionally stupid, I say. So you almost listen to it. Life is almost showing you where you need to work on yourself. And the choice is you choose it, you listen to it or you don't.
So I heard two things in what you said. One is if men can start with the belief that there's something valuable, there's a golden nugget on the inside. Just stay with it,
Hmm.
work through it, and you're going to find that gold, you
Hmm.
know. And men like to hunt and like to search. I'm stereotyping, of course, but generally speaking. And the other aspect, that question, let's repeat it. What is the divorce showing you? And I would say, what is the divorce showing you about yourself?
Hmm.
When men and women can take a moment to study that question, that is so powerful. That is so powerful.
How can you learn to love your divorce? That's the question at the core of this.
Yes. How can you learn to love your divorce? Because there's something you're going to come out of it. So the darkness will come out, and at some point you will be in the light. So, Jeff, before we close out, I have to ask for the culture. And when I say the culture, I'm talking about the women out there who said, okay, there are no good men left. They're all taken. And sometimes it's like the conversations that women have, it's like after a guy divorces, their willingness to recommit again. So from a culture, when I say culture, I mean from a societal perspective. Women are just like, well, dating, it's a hot mess out there. So I'm glad you I'm glad you repartnered. But what would you say to either the guys or the women? You can express, who you want the message to go to in terms of after you've gone through the divorce, how do you enter into the next relationship?
What comes up for me is I had to learn to be humble. Um, I know that when we first started dating, I could be difficult, we'll say. So it's being humble is owning where you're screwing up and um, owning the patterns you bring
Hmm.
and being humble in terms of looking at um, what challenge those patterns and making sure that you own those patterns. And I think that advice goes for both parties. People are people, right? We're both going to bring in our own patterns.
It goes for both. And for the women listening who listen to the show, it's a courageous conversation because I find that women often want to blame men for everything. The clause comes out, right? And I'm like, one of the things that I went through is uh, exactly as you say, to take responsibility and not just responsibility for your part in things, but to take responsibility for your life.
Hmm.
And so what that is what freed me, you know?
Hmm.
So it's a message that I think we can say in terms of coming through these difficult times, that there's joy
Hmm.
because there's a certain sense of freedom that comes when you understand who you are, you've evolved, and you bring that with you, in terms of your own humanity. So I think it's awesome. Okay.
I find it's it can be very confronting. I think men tend to shut down when we um emotionally anyway, and we run away. I'm generalizing here.
Yes,
Um, but if you can open to it and that humility will serve you in the long run. It makes you stronger. My wife now, like I'm more quiet, but she says it's like this quiet masculinity that's just confident and like even keel. If you keep pushing everything down, at some point it's going to explode, and that brings you to this. So if you can find that centeredness, it's a wonderful place to be.
it is. It is where your peace is.
Hmm.
It's a wonderful place to be in terms of peace. So tell us a little bit about how people can get in touch with you. Are you online or anything like that? I mean,
I
certainly
am
we go ahead.
divorce-daddy.com. I've got a starter kit on there where you can get the first steps to kind of taking that responsibility we were just talking about. So sign up, reach out if you have any questions. I do one-on-one coaching, and I have a membership where I walk you through this.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, I want to say in closing that we've said goodbye to the days when We used to be embarrassed, we being the collective we, the universe. We used to be embarrassed about getting help or needing help or
Mhm.
asking for help. I would hope as human beings, we've evolved, whether we're male or female, and we go through such a difficult life situation that we understand that help is available. When help is available, there is an opportunity to evolve, and joy comes, laughter comes, smiling comes. And so I am so grateful to you, Jeff, for being on the show to bring about this presentation in terms of men. And, that we need to stop and pause because and hear your side of things as well. So I appreciate you. I
Thanks, Anne
appreciate
Marie.
you. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for opening the conversation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is Anne Marie, host of About This Life, where we are changing our lives one day at a time. One day at a time. You can find me on aboutthislife.podbean.com. I made it to YouTube, y'all. So please listen, like, and subscribe. Take care.